Rev up your engine! All right, my customer just bought this used 250 Ford pickup truck with about 280,000 miles on it. He paid $6,300, and he wants to know, with 280,000 miles on it, it's going to be safe for him to tow his stuff back to Minnesota from Kentucky. He'll be pulling about 10,000 pounds. Now, physically, it's in excellent shape. Body's in good shape. Got a big old bed. Engine runs good. It doesn't smoke. It doesn't burn oil. 5.4 liter V8 engine hooked up to a pretty durable 5-speed automatic transmission. We're gonna check all that, but first he said it's shimmying a little at highway speed, so we'll check the front end. Jack it up, get the wheel off the ground. Let's see if there's any play. Not really. The tire wobbles a little. It might be able to be rebalanced, or it might need a new tire, but this part of the front end's okay. Now jack up the other side, and we'll check it for wear. We'll pull on it. Nothing outrageous. Spin the tire. Now he's planning on taking on a trip with a lot of weight, so listen to this. Hear that rattling? It's going to need a left front wheel bearing. In fact, wheel bearings to wear out with 280,000 miles on it. And me, if it was my truck, I would change both wheel bearings just to make it safe so you could drive it for a long time. You can get aftermarket ones that work perfectly fine. Let's start up and listen to it. Sounds decent. I can hear a little lifter clacking, but you expect that on an old engine. You could replace all the lifters and spend a fortune, but if it runs okay, who cares? It recently passed the emissions test in Nashville, so he didn't care. Runs as good as this thing does, leave it alone. Don't waste your money on something like that. Now let's check the data and scan it. Plug it in and let it do its thing. There she goes. Now immediately it says there's no powertrain, trouble codes are freeze frame, so we know there's nothing wrong with that. So let's go to live data. Fuel trim, short term bank 1. It's pretty close to 0. Long term, it's adding a little fuel. Typical as they age, the injectors won't spray just perfectly. And you could have just not enough fuel going in. And we'll look at bank 2. Bank 2, it's the same. It's 2 minus, it moves around a little, but that's okay. And both long-term fuel trim is 4.7 on each, so it's even, so it's not running unevenly. Shows you the fuel rail pressure. That's working pretty good. Do a Ford OEM enhanced check. We'll go to key on engine running, turn the steering wheel to the left, press and release the brake pedal, cycle the overdrive switch. They make you do all kinds of crazy stuff. Fords have this pretty decent self-diagnostic system, so while I'm sitting there, the computer's running through the whole thing. And here's an interesting thing. You notice when you turn the overdrive off, it's for towing and hauling. They're smart enough to realize if you're going to be towing stuff, you don't want to be in the top overdrive gear. It's too much strain, so it cuts that out when you're towing, which is what he's going to be doing from here, Tennessee, to Minnesota. You can see it now rev the engine down. It revs it up and down and checks all the systems. And the only thing it found wrong was P1464. AC switched on during self-test, which I don't care about at all because it's hot outside and I want to stay cool inside here. That's the only code. If I turn it off, that wouldn't even show, but I don't care. I'm staying cool, so I'm leaving it on. And now we'll do an all module scan. We'll scan all the modules. It takes a little while, but it checks everything. 76% done now. Got an ABS problem, which we knew because the light's on. He has tape covering it up. We don't care about that. He doesn't care. The instrument cluster, same thing. He doesn't care about that. Nothing else that really means anything. I mean, if we want to see what the instrument panel is, it'll be some stupid code. Ignition key and circuit fault. They get all down and trip crap like that. You don't care. It starts, it runs. That's more of a ghost code. So let's take it for a spin. Now we knew this thing was ready to tow 15,000 pounds. He says he's going to tow 10,000. I'll take it for a spin and see how I feel about that. Now these are high up in the air, serious trucks. Big old side mirrors so you can tow stuff safely. And the front end handles pretty good. The only thing is, like I say, that left front wheel bearing's gonna need replacing. If you listen closely, there, you can hear it. When I steer to the left that has a bad bearing, you can hear it growl. I'll do it again. Hear that growl? That means the left front wheel bearing needs changing. Now I can hear as it shifts. Going uphill, shifts pretty smooth, no real drag or anything on it. Tranny's in good shape. Let's see how much of the original 300 horsepower it has left. Well, it's lost some, that's for sure. can see when I really got on it there, it did shift a little rougher. I'd say this thing probably has, I don't know, 220 horsepower left. It's lost some of its horsepower, but hey, he only paid $6,300 for it. And the shocks are certainly worn. It's kind of rough. Some of them would still be original, but he bought this to tow stuff. From Tennessee to Minnesota, I don't think it's going to have a problem towing if he drives conservatively. After all, this is an F-250 in its twilight years. You can tow and stuff with all that mileage on it, but I predict this thing will have no problems going to Minnesota, pulling a 10,000-pound trailer, if the left front wheel bearing is changed. And hey, the AC is still blowing freezing cold. And it's still idle smooth as silk. It doesn't shake at all. Now you will notice when I drive it gently, the shifts are a lot smoother. So the transmission isn't bad. It's worn, no fooling. It's got 280,000 miles. But when you drive it normally, hey, the thing shifts very smooth. It's only when you really get on it that it gets harsh. And let's face it, you don't buy an old truck like this for $6,300 and then expect it to drive like a drag racer and tow 10,000 pounds and floor it and race people. No, you baby it then. And I think if he babies it and changes that wheel bearing, you won't have any problems at all. And you can hear as you're cruising along, the lifters, hydraulic lifters in the engine, they don't sound all that bad. They're worn, but what the heck. So there you have it. A used F-250, bought for $6,300. The only thing he's got to put on is that left front wheel bearing. Probably not have any worries at all, as long as he babies it. There aren't too many mountains between Tennessee and Minnesota anyways. Most of it's pretty flat level driving. So basically, it's an oldie, but still a goodie. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Tallboy 100 says, Scotty, my brother's thinking of getting a second generation WRX. Any common problems to be concerned about? Well, most of the guys get those with standard, so they're okay. But if it's an automatic transmission, have a mechanic look at it with a fine-tooth comb. And regardless of transmission, have the mechanic see if the head gasket's starting to blow. You can watch my video, How to Tell If Your Head Gasket's Blown, Scotty. Just type that to YouTube, and you can see how easy it is to check for a blown head gasket. You put in this blue liquid in a test tube, run it, and if it turns blue to yellow, the head gasket's blown, then run away and do not buy that WRX. R says, I want a reliable muscle car. Should I buy a Dodge Challenger Scat Pack? Not if you want a reliable car. They're fast. They're screaming cars. There's no arguing that. But it's a Chrysler product, which is now called Stellantis. Chrysler, Peugeot, and Fiat all merged together. I call them the three stooges of car manufacturing. They're very fast, but they're not reliable. And the thing is, a lot of times I tell people, buy used cars, save money. You don't want to buy one of those used. The people that buy them rag the heck out of them. Usually when they're used, there's nothing left and they're ready for the junkyard. So not a smart idea if you want reliable. But if you have an endless supply of money and you want to go fast, go right ahead and buy a new one. Juan Carlos Rodriguez says, why do you think four-wheel drive is a bad idea? Well, you don't need it most of the time. You're driving on a road, you don't need it. I got so many customers with four-wheel drive vehicles, they didn't need them. They didn't need to waste their money. They cost more, they weigh more, they get worse gas mods, they're more expensive to fix, they make the cars more complex. If you don't need it, why get it? Now, a lot of people live up north going to snow mountains. They love them, oh, they can get around. But even then, you have to realize, mainly getting around in the snow and the mud, it's the tires that you're using. You put snow tires on a front-wheel drive Toyota Corolla, that thing is going to go through the snow with no problems because the engine transmission's on the front where the drive wheels are. You put snow tires, they'll go through anything anyways. Of course, if you have a four-wheel drive vehicle and you put snow tires on, you're really able to go through stuff. It's all what you want to do, but I live in areas that doesn't snow that much. I don't go out in mud in the middle of creeks and stuff, so I don't care, and two-wheel drive is perfectly fine for me because you get better gas mileage, they last longer, and they're cheaper to buy. Bailey Amp says, I got an 08 Dodge Nitro RT. Can you tell me why every time I fill up the gas tank, it spits gas out after the handle clicks off? All right, odds are your Evap canister vent valve is bad. When you're filling it up, the computer is supposed to open the Evap vent valve. So all that air, instead of coming out in your face where the pumping is going in, it makes all that air from the gas tank go through the charcoal canister, then come out the Evap vent valve. It's filtered by the charcoal, so it doesn't get hydrocarbons in the atmosphere. You probably have a bad Evap canister vent valve, and then it builds up pressure and spits in your face. That's a real common thing. But also check all the hoses. You could have a hose that's clogged up. Sometimes rocks, mud gets in them. Sometimes those nutty spiders make nests in them. They could be clogged up too. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.